Today on Capitol Hill, lawmakers pressed Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem on two issues that strike at the heart of public trust: border security spending and whether taxpayers are quietly footing the bill for billion-dollar private events and controversial surveillance programs. If you want clear, no-nonsense breakdowns of what's really happening in Washington, make sure you subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss our coverage.
Secretary knows, everybody knows, that's the end. We're going to try to move on to the next person to get you out of here. We talked a little bit about the wall earlier. The administration has asked for $46.5 billion for the wall. The border on the Mexican border is about 1,950 miles. We've fenced or walled about 700 of it. That leaves about 1,200 miles. There's 200 or 300 miles of it that probably never going to have a fence on. It's mountainous or just impossible to fence or wall. So I would say realistically, you got under 1,000. But let's just say there's 1,000. You really want to wall on 1,000. CBP says it's 6.5 million per mile. Your response today was 12 million per mile. That means $12 billion for 1,000 miles. We're off here by a factor of 3 or 4 with 46 billion. Where's the rest of the 46 billion? The administration says they want 46 billion for a wall. You could pave all of it and still have, 34 billion left over. What's the 34 billion going for?
Yeah, Senator, thank you for the question. We do have 702 miles of wall today. 598 of that are steel. The rest of that is temporary, that's in place. Since the president's been in office, over 70 miles has been erected. We have 11 contracts that have gone out and allocated. We also have 5 more that are pending. Based on the dollars that have been requested, it's not just the infrastructure that would be built, that would be the actual wall construction. It would be also surveillance equipment.
The number's way off. 1,000. You could do 1,000 miles for 12 billion. You're asking for 46 billion. So I'm one who's not impressed and would have to see more detail as to where the rest of the money goes. We can't just throw $30 billion out there and say things cost a lot.
I agree. We'll get you the specifics on that.
With regard to the drones and all the preparatory work that DHS does and the government does for the NFL and for FIFA, does the NFL pay DHS for the work you do?
Boy, not to my knowledge. I will.
Well, I mean, here's my point. The NFL makes billions of dollars. We're $2 trillion in the hole. I don't care if government shares their technology and government helps out the World Cup. They ought to pay.
Yeah,
people are paying hundreds of dollars for tickets. I mean, thousands of dollars for the NFL, for Super Bowl and things. They're also paying for FIFA. And so these people ought to pay. And so I'm one holding up these authorizations, and I'll let them go forward. But I want people to pay. I mean, it's ridiculous that the average taxpayer who could never afford to go to an NFL Super Bowl has got to pay for their security. Should the government help? If we have technology they don't, perhaps. But they ought to pay. So NFL, FIFA, I think they all ought to pay. And we'll be insisting on trying to put language in that. If you're a for-profit entity and the government's helping you, you ought to pay for it. With regard to TSA Quiet Skies and Tulsi Gabbard situation, I suspect there are going to be other people that were caught up in this thing as well. I'm horrified by the idea that we took a former congresswoman and we're surveilling her and riding on jets with her. There was another story of an air marshal whose wife, might have been at January 6th or something, and now we're, have air marshals following another air marshal or his wife. So I want to hear the whole story of what happened. I want to hear that people have been let go, that they're no longer doing this. If there were abuses of Tulsi Gabbard's liberties, I want to hear from that. But I want repercussions to come from this. And I think you've said something's coming. Please let us know, and let us know how the program the destruction of civil liberties can be minimized. I frankly probably have trouble with the whole program, but let's see if there's some way. But we need significant reform. If it needs legislation, please come to us with that. Thank you for your testimony today.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Secretary Noem, for being here.
The sharpest exchange centered on the administration's request for $46.5 billion to expand the border wall. One senator laid out the math in plain terms, and it immediately raised eyebrows. The U.S.-Mexico border stretches roughly 1,950 miles. About 700 miles are already fenced or walled. Of what remains, hundreds of miles are mountainous or otherwise impossible to build on, leaving under 1,000 realistic miles for new new construction. Customs and Border Protection has previously estimated wall construction at about $6.5 billion per mile. Secretary Noem cited a higher figure, roughly $12 million per mile. Even at that elevated cost, 1,000 miles would total about $12 billion. That leaves more than $30 billion unaccounted for in the administration's request. The senator didn't mince words. He said he was not impressed, and he demanded specifics. Where exactly is the remaining money going? Infrastructure alone does not explain a price tag nearly 4 times higher than projected construction costs. Secretary Noem responded that the funding would cover more than just steel and concrete, including drones, surveillance systems, and preparatory work, but she acknowledged the need to provide detailed breakdowns, something lawmakers made clear they expect before approving any funding. If you appreciate reporting that cuts through talking points and explains the real implications, subscribe now and stay informed. The hearing then shifted to a different kind of border, the line between public responsibility and private profit. The senator raised a question many Americans have likely never considered. When the Department of Homeland Security provides security, drones, and intelligence support for major events like the NFL Super Bowl or the FIFA World Cup, who pays for it? According to Secretary Noem, to her knowledge, the NFL does not reimburse DHS for those services. That answer sparked immediate pushback. The senator argued that these organizations generate billions of dollars in revenue. Tickets cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Meanwhile, the average taxpayer, many of whom could never afford to attend these events, is effectively subsidizing their security. The senator made his position clear. Government can share technology and expertise, but for-profit entities should pay for the services they receive. He said he plans to push for legislative language that would require reimbursement whenever federal agencies support private, revenue-generating events. This is not a small issue. As global events like the World Cup and Super Bowl grow larger and more frequent, the cost of federal security support grows with them. Without reimbursement requirements, those costs quietly shift onto taxpayers. If you want more reporting that explains how government spending actually affects your wallet, subscribe to the channel now. The final portion of the exchange turned darker, focusing on surveillance and civil liberties. The senator raised concerns about the TSA's Quiet Skies program, referencing reports that former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard was placed under surveillance, including having air marshals ride on flights with her. He also cited a separate case involving an air marshal whose spouse may have attended events related to January 6, leading to surveillance of the marshal himself. The senator said he was horrified by the idea that political figures or their families could be monitored without clear justification. This line of questioning underscores a broader fear shared by many Americans, that counter-terrorism tools designed to protect the public may be drifting into politically sensitive or overly broad surveillance. Secretary Noem did not provide detailed answers, but acknowledged the need to fully review what happened. The takeaway from this hearing is not just about walls, stadiums, or surveillance programs. It's about accountability, who pays, who decides, and how much transparency the public deserves when billions of dollars and fundamental freedoms are at stake. If you want continued, in-depth coverage that explains the power dynamics behind these hearings and what they mean for everyday Americans, subscribe now and stay with us.